All right. Thank you for joining us on this mini episode of the Southwest Florida Business Podcast. I'm your host, Chris, and today I'm actually interviewing my intern, Sean Durkin, for the show. Pretty much, I don't know, the past 15 episodes that you've seen, most of the clips that you've seen out on social media, he has helped me edit, record, put together all these things, and as you'll see, one of his favorite things is being on camera, and he was super thrilled that I forced him to do this. And but he's been a huge help to me. And and so as he goes back to college, I wanted to put this together so he can see what it's like to be on the other side of the camera. But no, it's been a great internship. It's been super helpful. So I wanted to introduce you to Sean. So, without further ado, hope you enjoy this mini episode. This episode is brought to you by Southwest Florida Podcast. If you're a business in Southwest Florida and you want to use a podcast to grow your business, scan the QR code on your screen or visit the link in the show notes at www.swflpodcast.com. Enjoy the show. Sean, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
On the Southwest Florida Business Podcast.
Yep.
How does it feel to be on this side of the camera?
It's very uncomfortable. I don't like it.
That's kind of surprising because this whole time you've been like a very talkative person and you've been like super outgoing and you've always like really wanted to be in front of the camera. So I'm surprised that you'd be nervous on camera. It's a shock to me.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to bring you on so that way we can talk through some of this stuff. I really wanted to get a sense of kind of what you thought about this internship, what you learned, because you're going back to school soon, I think next week, and you have been very helpful to me, so I appreciate all the help.
Yep.
And so, I wanted to learn from you what you got out of this, and then like how great it was to work here, and like how good of a boss I am, and all that stuff, which you have mentioned like pretty much every day how good of a boss I am.
Yep.
Yeah, and so, I appreciate that. But, so, like, all right, so first, tell everybody who you are, and then where you're going to school, all that stuff, what you're going to school for, and then, let's roll into it.
All right, I'm Sean. I go to University of Florida for Digital Arts and Sciences, which is basically just a catch-all major. It's got everything: animation, programming, Photoshop, video editing. So I'm going to be a sophomore this year. I think that's basically it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Always checking fantasy baseball stats too. So,
Yeah.
So did you play baseball?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Like all through high school? Or?
Sophomore year was my last year. So.
Yeah. That's when I bailed on baseball too. It just became, I didn't want to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then everybody was just getting better than me all the time anyway, and I like to think that I left on my terms, but I probably left because I couldn't hang. So I hope that you left on your terms.
I did not leave on my terms.
No.
So
What happened?
I got cut from my high school team.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I probably was. I was destined for the same fate. So I feel you. I understand.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So how did you get into like all the digital arts and like what caught your eye about this stuff?
So I got into it. So in middle school, there was a tech class, and there was like a Photoshop module. So I really liked that. And then I had tech the next year, so I got more into it. And then in high school, they offered like a digital design class, so I did that too. So it's always just been interesting to me. I like messing around with stuff and just trying new things out because there's so many programs out there and you can always learn something from them. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, coming here, you were working with a whole bunch of new programs that
almost actually all new programs. I don't think I'd used any of them before. So
yeah. So what's this experience been like? What did you expect coming into it?
For one, I thought this would be a part-time job because you said that a couple times, and the first week was 2 days, but then It wasn't. It was an everyday thing, which is definitely an adjustment the first couple of weeks. Working every day, all day was rough on some parts, but it was a fun experience. Like learning new stuff, trying out new things was always interesting. And most of the time I wasn't doing the same thing every day, but there were stretches where it was the same thing for like a week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You really dive into the monotony of some of this stuff and working. So
yeah.
All right. So and was this kind of your first practically full-time? I mean, you're helping me out a whole bunch. You're doing school stuff as well, but call it full-time, I guess. Yeah. I mean, was this your first kind of like full-time job basically?
Definitely. So my parents both own businesses, so I've helped them out with a few things, but nothing more than like 2 hours at a time. So this is definitely big step up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you feel a difference when somebody is asking you to do work when it's not your parents? Do you feel the difference there?
Yeah, I feel a difference because your parents you can kind of get away with more things because like how mad can they really be at you and stuff. So it's definitely different. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I understand the feeling. But okay, so I mean, on this, like, can you kind of lay out like all the different stuff that you were working on, and yeah, let's just talk through some of that.
So there's the podcast production thing. It's the main part the last like month. So video editing, pulling clips, all that stuff. And then a big chunk of it was when we rented out the Blackmagic camera and recorded like 50 different things. A big part of that was cutting those up, doing color correction because our color was just really bad then. Yeah, and then I had a stretch of adding like graphics to those things while we were waiting on whatever company we have now. So I did a few of those. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So it was kind of all over the place. I mean,
definitely, yeah.
So what was it like? What was it like from your perspective of being part of like starting this new business and seeing it evolve? I mean, and it's really only been a little over 2 months. So what's that been like?
It's been really cool seeing it evolve. Like you do the same stuff for a couple weeks, and then you get a new idea or you get new clients and you do something else for a few weeks, and that's always nice. And then being at the start of a company is always interesting because you don't know where it's gonna go, and then those evolutions happen, and you just kind of have to roll with it.
Yeah. So like, do you feel like how do you think that you'll end up using the stuff that you've learned from this internship, like wherever you end up going?
I guess just being down for anything, because with this you never know what you're gonna do the next day, so you just gotta be prepared to try something new, even if you have no idea what you're getting into. You just gotta expect the best, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much just roll with it. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. And just so you know, from this side too, it's kind of how it feels as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good observation actually. Is that you do certain things for a couple weeks, and then a new customer, and then things change, and all this different stuff. So, yeah. And how annoyed with me are you just for the amount of stuff that you've had to do and changes that we've made and sales calls that you hear, and me saying the same messages into these different apps over and over again? Are you want to kill me at this point, or?
Some of that can get annoying, but it's mostly fine. Changes were welcomed because like doing those 50 clips we recorded, that got kind of rough because I would have to listen to them multiple times to make sure they were all right and stuff. So that was probably the worst part of the job, was that stretch of doing that. So.
Yeah, trudging through. So, well, and you heard us talking on the Jiu-Jitsu podcast about, powering through some of this stuff and dealing with adversity and all these kinds of things. So, like, having that situation placed there, right, and dealing with that, what are some of the ways that you got through it? How did you handle it? Was there anything that you found while you were doing it to make it faster? I mean, like, how did you approach that stuff?
I guess the way to make it bearable was like doing it chunks at a time. So like cutting up 5 or 6 clips and then exporting those and putting those through the script, so it's I'm doing the same thing all the time, but it's like slightly different every now and then. So that was probably the best way to do it. Just be chunking it up and having mini goals that you can realistically hit, and just take breaks in between those and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically keep it fresh for yourself as you're going through the process, and do the same thing in a chunk, export, do the captions, addings, graphics, all that stuff, get that done, move on to the next chunk, same process, move it through, and then whatever else we had peppered in there for that, 3-week stretch, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so I guess one thing I wanted to ask you about is if you had to give another intern a piece of advice for working anywhere, what would you give? And then also, what would you give for working with me?
For working anywhere, I guess it would be down for anything, because you get many opportunities trying stuff no one else will. So you're just ahead of the game there. And then working for you, you just got to listen in on all those sales calls and hearing you say a lot of the same things in those sales calls. So that honestly is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think of how I feel, dude. I got to be the one saying them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's part of this process. And actually, it's funny you say that, because you remember one of the first things we ever did was that Trump impression and doing all that. Well, having you come work for me was you're the first person that ever worked for me. And so from my side, doing a Trump impression and all this stuff is and the David Goggins impression to make these videos, I'm all nervous about that, because I don't normally have people watching me do this. I can make stuff, put it all together, and do that. So actually, from a sales perspective and having all these calls, that was actually something that I had to get over, where I can hear people hearing me talk and doing all these things. And that from my side it's kind of funny that it gets annoying, because from my perspective, I'm I had to get over the fear of possibly annoying somebody else with it in order to just keep moving forward. So how do you think that you'll end up? I know I kind of asked this, but how do you think that you could end up using this for something at school, to, I don't know, get a job or create your own business? How do you advance your cause using the stuff that you learned here?
I mean, a lot of it just be learning the new programs. I know now how to audio edit, kind of, in Logic. I didn't know that before. Then I can use DaVinci, which is similar to Premiere, but it's got its advantages that I could use and take advantage of. And then I could use all those skills and stuff to sell something up in UF if I ever needed to. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you thought about that yet? If anybody, turning any of this into your own business at all?
I mean, a little bit, but not that much. I feel like I'll have a lot going on up in the fall. So if I'm still working for you and parents want me working for the school, basically, then I'm also a clock operator for the high school football. And then I got school, so.
I mean, school's not that important.
Yeah, I know. So. It's whatever. It's a degree. But.
I mean, it's whatever. You can just kind of phone it in, dude.
Yeah.
That's it. That's how you get through. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Good advice. Pam, Brian, don't kill me. But okay, cool. Well, and yeah, dude, it's kind of hard to do all of that stuff and start a business, but it is interesting being where I'm at now, not having known this stuff really when I was in college. I didn't even know this was accessible, to have this. I don't know, it's a trade kind of. It's a skill that most people don't have. And you can kind of freelance and do all that stuff. I mean, you might even be able to go on Fiverr or things like that and do one-time projects. Oh, well, I need $1,000. How do I make $1,000? Well, I can do this stuff. Who needs this service, and how do I do it? And yeah, if you need help with a camera or something, I can always ship you a camera or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I get your back with that. Yeah. So I mean, other than that, just what's your overall impression of the internship? Anything else you want to touch on?
It was good. It was a valuable experience. I got like a taste of the working world without actually diving fully into it. So I get a nice break going back to college and chilling out a little more. So yeah.
Yeah, all right. And so next move for you, go back to college, do these 13 things that you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. And one thing I'll say to you that you should consider doing is taking the work that you did here and, I don't know, creating some sort of portfolio, whether it's through
Definitely.
your social media. I want to have you help me produce the Chine On podcast stuff. And so, I mean, with that stuff, like I said, most people don't know how to do that stuff. So
Yeah.
if you know that, especially as a college student, in studying the things that you're studying now, you're just building a portfolio of the things that you've done. And just so you know, part of your work and all the things that you've been doing have been able to, like, I've been able to go out and actually sell because of the work that you're doing. So,
Yeah.
like, one thing to consider with that is the value that you actually brought to me as a business owner. Like, if you weren't helping me do that, I could not go out
Yeah.
and sell.
I'm aware of all that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's important because that is a real world value. Because something I didn't understand about a job or getting into the workforce or going and applying for jobs at places, you can get into this weird mindset of, well, I feel like I could make 45,000, or I feel like I can make 55,000, or I feel like this, and that's fine, but it is limiting. It's not inherently a bad thing because it comes with its perks. You have a set paycheck, you have all that stuff. But if you look at it just in that way, a lot of times, at least I did, was I would look at it like, am I worthy of that? But like you get into this like self-worth kind of zone, and then some people get like uppity about it too when they're above that mental line in their head. But what I'm saying is I have like a fairly premium product for what we're doing, and I built that myself, but I hit a point where I could either continue putting the same amount of work into the thing that I was doing and not sell it, in which case the business dies, you run out of money, or I can go on to sell this stuff and make what I think is a good chunk of money. What I'm going for is revenue at least in the next year, in the hundreds of thousands. And what you did plays a critical role in my ability to do that. So it's something to consider as you go to sell things, like sell your services, join a team. If you're going in there with this experience, knowing that you can help somebody achieve that goal, you can start to attach what you want to charge them for these things to them hitting that goal. Because if somebody's like, yeah, I can make $300,000 a year, but it all rests on you and I only want to pay you $35,000, you have leverage. You have negotiating pieces. You see me going and selling this. You've seen behind the curtain of like how this stuff works and where your value actually sits. So I know I drive it home, and I know I tell everybody that comes in here that I couldn't do this without the stuff that you do. But I'm actually like, I'm trying to drill that into your head that the things that you've been doing are extremely valuable, and to know that worth when you go and do these other things. So part of the portfolio piece is showing that off. I have people that have been running businesses for 10, 15, 20, 30 years that see the clips that you made on Instagram and go, holy shit, dude, how did you make this? Let's talk. I got to talk. I got to find out more about this. What's this podcast? What is this thing? This is really cool. And like, you made that. So sure, I came up with the ideas. I was the one that said it, but if I didn't have that back end support, I wouldn't be able to do this and scale it and do all those things. So that's what I mean is like, don't take that for granted.
Yeah.
The value that you can bring to people. And I know that you're humble and all these things, and that's good, but just don't forget that piece.
Yeah. I would joke with my parents, like, I do 90% of the video production, a video production company. So
yeah,
I was aware that your job was selling basically, and I was the back end part of that.
Yeah. Be very aware because it's critically important. And yeah, you can get pigeonholed. It's what you're doing right now is a trade, and you can have a lot of freedom, but if people don't see that value or they don't understand that value, they can pigeonhole you, and it's just something to be aware of. And that way, as you grow your career, you go to find opportunities, different places, that somebody can't trick you into thinking that you're not valuable. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
And I've been tricked before, so that's why I say this. So, what's next for Sean Durkin?
Next would be just going to college, learning more new things, and just constantly growing.
All right. Do you want to give your social media stuff a plug?
I don't have anything on social media.
All right. Well, then what I'll do is, then I'm probably going to put a fire under your ass to start something, so that way you have some of this, and then take the content that you made for me and just start uploading it. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't view it as stealing or how could you do it. Like, take my stuff, put it out there. Here's the work that I did, blah, blah, blah. Here's how we came up with the vision, all that stuff. So, well, be sad to see you go, but I know we're going to keep working together, so I'm not that sad. But, no, but seriously, thanks for all the help, man. I appreciate it. It's been...
Thanks for hiring me.
Yeah, no problem. This all came together because I interviewed your dad, and he's like, you need an intern? And I said, I don't know, do I? And he said, you do? And here we are. And I appreciate the help, man. Thanks. All right. Thank you, everybody. This episode is brought to you by Southwest Florida Podcasts. If you're a business in Southwest Florida and you want to use a podcast to grow your business, scan the QR code on your screen or visit the link in the show notes at www.swflpodcast.com.